Gigabyte Gaming. I'm Snare.
I'm Lee, and today we're going to be taking a look at Watchdogs, a third-person action game released by Ubisoft.
Our research and development department is hard at work on new ideas to make your life healthier, happier. We believe innovation will change the world. We're growing.
I think first, what we need to address is the elephant in the room, the graphical downgrade. For me, it's pretty unforgivable what they've done. I think they've removed a large part of the graphical fidelity just because they want to sell on consoles, in my point of view.
True. I mean, for me, as everyone and you guys out there as well, we were completely wowed by the shots from E3, all the smoke effects, all the beautiful kind of imagery that they had. It was really going to be the next gen defining game for PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, wow, a PC game running on a console. What the heck?
So let's get down to the basics. So in terms of visuals, how it looks now, what do you think?
As it stands, it looks nice. It's not outstanding by any means, but it's serviceable. It gets the job done. It doesn't look ugly. There's very few really rough textures you'll find in the game world.
Yeah, I mean, for me, coming from a PlayStation 3 to a PlayStation 4, playing on PlayStation 4, you could definitely see it was an upgrade to what we've been used to on PS3. Maybe not towards the end of the PS3 kind of cycle, with games like Last of Us, etc.
Well, to be fair, The Last of Us did have some shocking textures in it.
It did.
And the frame rate was about 24 or something.
Yeah, it was kind of it was pushing the PS3 to the limit, and they obviously made some cutbacks. But in terms of gameplay and things we could actually see in Watchdogs, I don't remember seeing anything too dodgy in terms of textures. The whole thing looked good. It was kind of sparse in places, but the visuals on the whole for me were acceptably good for PS4. The bit that I really didn't like was the delay, because I was expecting to play the Watchdogs on day one.
I think a lot of the lighting effects that are in it do look good, like when you're running across a road and headlights sweep across you. That looks good, but it looked much better in the previous versions that we'd seen.
True, but wasn't that an addition, like after the event, the lighting effects and things, as a response to everyone going on?
Yeah,
about
they did patch it, but where I've got Steam at what with patches, so
I can remember on the PS4 version playing it straight away. Those lighting effects and sunset effects were not there. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it weren't there day one.
Okay, well that's fair enough then. Seeing as the consoles were obviously their primary market anyway, so.
Well, we all know that the graphic gate of Watch Dogs was the fact that all those effects on PC were commented out effectively and still present in the Title 1 release for PC.
So it's kind of dislocked content that they're not selling you.
Ever.
Yeah.
Naughty Ubisoft.
Could be worse, could be Capcom.
True. Where we have to pay for each sun ray that comes through. Microtransactions.
Yeah. The graphics, as far as I'm concerned, are acceptable. They're not stunning. They do the job, and there's not too much to complain about in them other than what we could have had. True.
So that brings us on to gameplay. So how did you find the gameplay?
I found it to be Assassin's Creed with a cell phone.
I'd partially agree, but to me, some of the mechanics involved in how you interact with the world, okay, there were definitely Ubisoft-themed, Assassin's Creed-themed ways of getting around and doing things. The side quests, for example, unlocking an area so you can see what's there, that's very Assassin's Creed. But on the whole, for me, there wasn't as much of the Assassin's Creed mechanic as you might think.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is a history of Ubisoft just porting what works from Assassin's Creed into different genres and different variations of game. You've got Far Cry, where you have to climb radio towers to unlock what you can see on the island.
Yep.
It's just putting it in a first-person shooter, and now it's putting it into essentially GTA 5 Lite.
True. I mean, personally, I found some of the mechanics that you get to use in the game pretty useless. For example, the focus ability, which is where you can slow down time and get better reaction speed when you're driving and stuff. I never really used that. I used that maybe twice when I realised that it might help when I couldn't do a particular challenge. But on the whole, I never really found it as a really necessity of what I was trying to do at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with it is it's trying to be Assassin's Creed, but it's taken out what makes Assassin's Creed Assassin's Creed. There's no free running. Melee combat is gone. All you have is like a takedown quick time thing.
Well, you do have free running, but you can only jump over a box about that high.
Yeah, and one of the side quests is you have to find your way up to this switch box, turn it off, and then it unlocks your map. And so you're trying to work out a route, and you're like, well, I can climb up there, go up there, fine, let's do it. And you go to do it, and it won't let you climb on this roof. Even though it's identical to another bit of roof, you can climb on.
Well, personally, I didn't find that too much of an annoyance. For me, I'm the kind of gamer that grinds away at the side quests to get XP abilities, whatever, before attempting too much of the story, because I like to play through and not be hindered. Whereas obviously Ubisoft want you to do certain things in a certain order. For me, finding those routes up were pretty simple. I never really came across that problem, to be fair.
I was stuck on one for about an hour and a half. I don't know what it says about me, but
not as good as me.
Maybe I'm just not as anal as you.
Yeah, true. But I think on the whole, for me, the gameplay was good. The ability to use the cameras is obviously a main part of Watchdogs. I personally found the cameras to be incredibly useful, but also took you out of the game a little bit.
Yeah.
I certainly found using the cameras to get to certain points great, but then if I needed to go and find that particular place, if I'd gone too far and couldn't go any further with cameras, I'd have to try and find my way to that camera.
Yeah, you would often hit like a camera dead end. Like you follow this link of cameras that you think is taking you somewhere, and then it's just like, I can't see anything from this one, and it's the last one. So you'd have to either come all the way out and pick a different camera, or just backtrack.
Yeah. I mean, let's not forget the abilities you can do through the cameras. So, for example, triggering platforms, etc., which you can do from your own cell phone anyway in the game. The ability to make people explode.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that was probably the most entertaining part of the game.
Yeah.
But it did sort of highlight AI stupidness, because quite often when you overload them, they try and get the grenade off them or whatever it is you're exploding. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But when they do, they throw it. And a lot of times they'll throw it right near their bodies and blow the lot of them up.
Well, that's obviously a good thing, isn't it?
Well, it's a good thing that it's taken those guys out, but it's pretty shit on the part of the AI to throw it at his buddies.
Well, I think if you're going to do a mission where there's lots of people, the chance of it killing someone is great. But if it's just a fun factor, I wished every single baddie had a grenade.
Yeah, I mean,
just for those carnage sessions.
It is entertaining to just watch him flat out panic when it starts going off. But a lot of the uses for the camera, when you're going to hideouts and strongholds and stuff like that, I'll finish it and then I'll come back and go, oh, I could have done that. Never mind.
I mean, one thing I really did like about Watch Dogs, I mean, we've been quite negative so far. Yeah. I mean, I was a big fan of Watch Dogs, and I'm a big fan of Ubisoft games generally. And I think that's one place where we disagree a lot.
Yeah, I would say so.
But I felt that the fun had in going around doing bits and pieces, hacking people, the amount of information that is in the game of the NPCs is fantastic. I mean, you can actually see a particular vocation salary of people, and you can steal their money and then go and cash it in at the cash point.
Yeah, I do have a few problems with that aspect of it as well. I mean, a lot of you will see it repeat quite often. So you'll find a different person with a different name, different age, but he'll have syphilis like the last 30 people that you've come across.
Well, we can't put any dispersions on where the game is set, but
I mean, is it actually simulating the spread of syphilis?
Well, it could be. Maybe we're part of a bigger picture. I don't know. But I found that quite fun, and it's not something I've seen done before. The part that did annoy me the most, I think, of hacking people to get money is when you weren't paying attention, and there are some characters that when you do hack them, they call it in, and then you get people after you. And without having a particular special ability to jam that signal, it became very, very, very annoying. Too annoying, actually.
Yeah.
But the ability to hack was interesting, and it was a good way to build up money. But I think Ubisoft has always had this problem with in-game currency. It happened in Assassin's Creed 2.
Yeah,
I just ended up with too much money and nothing to spend it on.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing happened in Watchdogs.
Well, to be fair, I mean, what can you spend on Watchdog? You have weapons, and then you have different colour outfits, which are terrible. I mean, give us a new outfit. Let's not just have a palette swap and be cheap.
Well, not just that. The caps were terrible. They were really kind of square and boxy.
Yeah.
The main default costume for Aiden Pearce, the main protagonist, was good in shape wise. It moved well, but if you started to change the colours around, you ended up with a completely different cap size and shape. And in the cutscenes, it just didn't look good. But and another thing to bring me on to Aiden.
Yeah.
Aiden is really not relatable at all.
No, absolutely not. I mean, they're trying to tell this huge tale of personal loss and him trying to like save his sister and her kid and all this, and you just don't care. Yeah, you don't have any emotional attachment to him. I mean, all the time he's
got those dead eyes.
It's super dead. There's very little expression to him at all.
It would have more expression if you had Keanu Reeves playing him.
Maybe.
No, I think it's the truth. I think the voice acting was okay.
Yeah, the voice acting was okay. It wasn't great. There wasn't very much to do with it. I mean, if you look at the script, I mean, there were none of those moments like you had in The Last of Us or Beyond Two Souls, you know, stuff which hit you emotionally. There was none of that. It was just like, okay, I've got to chase this car, or okay, I've got to kill this guy, or I've got to get here within a certain time. You just took it as a gameplay mechanic rather than a story.
I think what it needed is one of those no moments.
Yeah, like the opening of The Last of Us,
which was very emotional.
Yeah, it crippled me basically.
Yeah, well, I think it was good enough, and I think that's the kind of theme that I felt with Watch Dogs. I enjoyed playing it. I played it for a long time. I've actually finished the game before you did.
Well, I haven't finished the game, so obviously.
But in terms of obviously reviewing the gameplay and the game in general, I think for me it was an enjoyable experience. But because I made it an enjoyable experience, there was a lot more, there was a lot more on me to enjoy it than it was the game making me enjoy it.
So you're saying the game gave you the tools and just said have fun?
Yeah, it was more that I had to put more effort in to make it something that I'd want to come back to, than the game being like, oh, this is so amazing, I need to play more.
I don't think that's a good state of affairs, because if you have to put a lot in to make the game you want to come back to the game, and Ubisoft hasn't done that, there's something wrong at its core.
Well, maybe there's something wrong with me.
Possible.
But I like I said, I enjoyed it. we all know that Ubisoft are making this into a franchise. They're not having this as a single. They don't do single games anymore. It's franchise or nothing. But I certainly felt that the end was so obtusely opening up for a sequel. It was just kind of just asking like, okay, now can I play some more?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't finished it, so I couldn't comment on Watch Dogs ending. But from the history of the Assassin's Creed games, I can see that. Yeah, definitely.
And do you think that it's going to have the same longevity as Assassin's Creed?
Personally, I don't think Assassin's Creed has the longevity of Assassin's Creed, because purely, I think it's very much the same game every iteration of it. They just throw it around different time zones, and they put you in the Midwest, and everybody likes the ship level, so they go, oh, we'll do one with lots of ships, so we're pirates, brilliant. And the ship levels are fun in that and everything, but it comes down to you still have to do all the Assassin's Creed shit, which is boring as hell.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean, for me, I can't see how they could do more Watch Dogs with Aiden. No, his story is finished.
They definitely need to switch protagonists. They need to have someone interesting that you can get behind, not some blank mannequin that you just run around the place.
Yeah, I mean, you do meet some other characters through the arc of the gameplay.
Yeah, the other characters are more interesting than Aiden, though. That's the problem. They're more interesting than the protagonist you're playing as. You're like, I want to play as that guy, or I want to play as her. Instead, you're stuck with this boring asshole.
True. I think there's a lot of things we'd actually agree on Watch Dogs. Obviously, the experience that we had was mightily different.
Yeah.
I enjoyed playing it. You didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I will end up buying Watch Dogs 2. because I think it's a nice gameplay. I like this kind of game. I like the kind of games where you can do your own thing. Sandboxes are kind of my thing game wise. So I enjoy picking up where we left off from the last game, finding out new abilities, and still having those side quests, side missions. I mean, let's be honest, there's plenty of things to do inside Watch Dogs. I mean, the side quest content is big.
Yeah, but some of those work against it because in one mission you'll be racing to save your nephew, and then all of a sudden you'll be bouncing on giant flowers.
True.
It really hurts the tone of the game by including that. I mean, it works, stuff like that works in Saints Row 4 because the entire game was basically batshit crazy. So like driving around in a giant mecha tank thing, killing things, wasn't out of character. But in Watch Dogs, which is going for a very dark, gritty tone, it just comes out of place. There's no place for it in that game. They're just putting it in there because people liked it in Saints Row 4. And I think that's part of my problem with it. It's got a lot of stuff from a lot of different other games all mashed together, whereas those games included it for a reason, where it's just seen that it worked in those games and went, we'll have some of that.
Well, another example of it being done badly, in my opinion, was GTA 4. I mean, that game was rushed out with so much to do with side quests and going to bowling with your freaking cousin and stuff, and it was just annoying. It was all the time. Yeah. He was more needy than a high maintenance girlfriend. But all of those side quests, they weren't done very well. I mean, the mini games themselves were, but they were tacked on.
Yeah, it was very much forced upon you in that case.
And for me, I remember the trailers and when the hype started for Watch Dogs, it was a very black and white, minimalist kind of trailers. The actual gameplay we got around to seeing was kind of moody and steamy and smoky, and it was very, very immersive.
Sort of Nolan-esque.
Yeah, and what we ended up with was, well, it was more bland than we were expecting.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing you can level against it is, certainly in the urban environments, the actual surroundings themselves are pretty bland. I mean, okay, a lot of urban environments aren't colourful and enriched in that manner, but they're not. They have character because there's dirt and there's graffiti, and it just felt like someone made a building and just went.
Yeah, and it was there for show. I mean, you couldn't really interact with the buildings.
No.
The only thing you could interact with was the cameras stuck on the side of the buildings. For me, there was a big part of the soundtrack. I felt the soundtrack in places was fitting. I don't know what you think about the soundtrack.
I think the orchestral stuff is okay. I think all the licensed tracks, I couldn't find one I liked. That's just down to my taste in music, but I mean, it's no GTA Vice City where you're rolling around on a Vespa to Billie Jean, you know?
Yeah, that's something else. I mean, that was kind of a pinnacle of in-game music or licensed music. I mean, for me, score is incredibly important for a game. You can have a good game, but if it hasn't got a good score, it's never going to be a great game. To me, it's that part of music that helps you get immersed inside the game.
Yeah, I mean, I find myself agreeing and disagreeing. I think a game can be fantastic in its own right with absolutely no music whatsoever. It depends upon the game and what kind of atmosphere they're going for. For instance, the PT, playable teaser for Silent Hills, no music during the game, and that really helped the atmosphere. If there had been a score, I think it would have ruined it.
But let's be honest, Watch Dogs isn't trying to be a horror.
No, well, it's managed it, but it wasn't attempting it.
Let's be kind. For me, the score is very important in Watch Dogs. It helps me set the scene and the kind of the level that you're working at inside the game. I mean, Assassin's Creed, just to compare another Ubisoft game.
Well, you may as well compare it to Watch Dogs.
I mean, Assassin's Creed rarely had score in it, apart from the cutscenes, if I remember.
I think you're right.
So in that game, you weren't really immersed in the music. You were immersed in making your own story with that character. You had your story missions, but you could quite easily just walk around slowly. There's always a guard to kill, and you could then run away or just stand there and counter for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the score for me in Watch Dogs was important. I really wanted to become immersed in this game. It didn't. It was more effort, as we said earlier, more effort to get immersed than I really want to spend. But at the same time, the score worked for me.
There's nothing outstanding about the score to me, so I can't really say anything about it because I can barely remember it.
Well, I couldn't hum it, but...
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that I can't remember it means it didn't do a bad job either, I suppose, because you would remember it if the score was terrible, you would certainly remember it. Another one of the things where you actually have to hack, like, servers inside these government facilities. For the 900th millionth time, they've used the Pipe Mania game. It's just like... we just use this for any complex thing you need to do that we can't actually sort of show you doing. You just make a little pipe.
I'm pretty sure they didn't have Pipe Mania stuff in Assassin's Creed, though.
Yeah, but I mean, half of me is almost convinced they were going to call this Assassin's Creed Cell Phone when they came up with it.
Well, we're yet to see Assassin's Creed in the modern age. Do you think that that's going to end up being Watchdogs? We could have our first crossover of franchises.
It's so close to Assassin's Creed anyway, I don't think it's worth the bother.
Yeah, well, you couldn't fit any pirate ships in Seattle, could you?
No, I can't. I mean, I think free running. If they're going to make it like Assassin's Creed, make it like Assassin's Creed. They've taken free running off because they've given you vehicles. The free running is what makes Assassin's Creed stand out and has done since the start of the series.
I've never seen anyone else do it as good as Assassin's Creed.
No, I mean, the prototype games you can make an argument.
Infamous as well.
Infamous was less free running and more just climbing though.
Yeah, but I think that's the closest I can recall being to like free running.
Yeah, for me, prototype was a lot closer to it, but that still wasn't great because it didn't have levels. You would basically just run up a building.
Yeah, and then miss the top if I remember. If you're running too fast.
Yeah, you could overshoot. Yeah, basically, it's more like Infamous Second Son prototype, and when you get the light speed power, it's more like that than it is actual free running.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's the only other game that's probably done free running better would be Mirror's Edge, but that was just such a frustrating experience. No one wanted to play it.
I only ever played the demo of that. I have to hold my hands up and say I haven't played that. But I mean, was there ever a Mirror's Edge 2?
It's coming, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even if it was out, I wouldn't have noticed. It's a game that was really, it was like start of the cycle of the PS3, wasn't it? And it was again billed as like, this is the next gen, but after playing the demo it was kind of frustrating.
Yeah, it was super frustrating. It was always looking for the next red bit that you had to get to, and sometimes you'd see a red bit but you weren't even sure how to get there, and certainly in the actual game itself you were a lot of the times under pressure. You had to do things very quickly, and when you weren't sure where to go, you would just basically jump for it and died. So.
Yeah, so bringing it back to Watchdogs.
Yeah.
I can definitely see a sequel coming because we know a sequel is going to be coming.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if it's going to have the same longevity as Assassin's Creed, unless they do something different. I mean, in the sense of Infamous and Infamous Second Son as well as Infamous 2, they managed to progress that franchise along by rebooting a new character.
Yeah.
As in Delsin.
I mean, they would be fools not to do that.
Yeah, I don't think Aiden's got, unless they make Aiden fantastically different.
Yeah, but
he's not going to be the kind of character I want to watch.
The problem when you make a character fantastically different between games is what's happened to him to make him that different. It's going to be something really interesting that you're going to want to see or play. So if they said it like between games, you're going to be like, well, I would have loved to have played that.
Well, true, but they did it with Leisure Suit Larry 3. Because that was never a game. That was, I remember, you had Leisure Suit Larry 2 and then Leisure Suit Larry 4, and number 3 was the lost game. It was never written.
I would have put money on not hearing Leisure Suit Larry mentioned during this review.
Well, this is what you come to Overbite Gaming for. Rubbish.
Wow, that was... I have nothing in my brain to respond to that.
I win. So, Watch Dogs is great. End of.
No, we just agreed that Leisure Suit Larry is lost. That's fine.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, I think my overall thoughts on Watchdog is it's average. It's competently made. It's not doing anything particularly revolutionary. You've got the hacking thing, but it's just one button press. There's no depth to it whatsoever. You just go through a checkpoint, a crossroad, and press your button, and then lights go green, and hopefully it crashes in the car behind you.
I'll tell you what was more inside Watchdogs. What was more difficult than the Pipemania security hacks?
And that wasn't difficult. That was just cliche.
Was the drinking games.
I never did any of the drinking games.
Because to start with, they're very easy, but very quickly, I mean, there's a trophy and achievements for basically beating somebody at a drinking game. You take a shot, he takes a shot, and then you have to line up your sticks or push buttons and stuff. And you need a lot of coordination and do it very quickly when it gets hard. And that is much more challenging than having the knowledge and experience and access to hack a mainframe of a city by twisting some pipes.
Yeah.
So I think they might have got that round the wrong way. But at the same time, if you were doing that all the time, it might get very annoying. If it gets really hard, really quickly, and you're not very good at it, you could be stopped from the game. But the drinking games were something that I kind of enjoyed, and then realised I had to get a trophy because I'm a bit of a trophy glutton. But those drinking games were good. They were hard as well.
Maybe I should have tried them. Maybe that would have made my experience of Watch Dogs much better, in the fact that I wouldn't have to play the game and just do the drinking side game.
Maybe that's the next one. Maybe Watch Dogs 2 is just drinking. We could do that.
I don't need Watch Dogs 2 for that.
True. Yeah. We already had like 3 bottles of whiskey before we did this interview. It's not even an interview. It's a game review. I'm pissed. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm pissed too. I had to play Watch Dogs for fucking game footage.
I make a mean bad guy. I gave him hell.
So, final thoughts about Watch Dogs. What do you think?
Personally, I would say you should let it come down in price. I bought it day one. I did it on Steam, so I saved £10 over this schmuck anyway. But seriously, let it come down in price. Maybe 20 quid would be a reasonable price point to pick it up at. It's an average game. It'll give you some enjoyment, and it will take you a little while to finish it. If you've got nothing else to play, maybe you want to give this a look. But I would really wait for it to come down in price.
For me, much the same really. I would probably wait for it to come down in price. I think it's a good game for a certain type of person that likes that sandbox, open play, make your own adventure almost of kind of game. Lots to do, will keep you busy, like you said, and I would recommend. But for me, because I bought a special edition, and I know you hate those, but the special edition was a well-made, good quality special edition in my view. If I had it with me, I'd show you, but I forgot to bring it. So basically, I think it's a good game, but not as immersive as I wanted it to be. Everyone was a bit let down, but I think on the whole, I would recommend it.
And that's our review of Watch Dogs. Please let us know what you guys think in the comments below.
Cheers. Come back soon. I don't think I'll ever want to do that. But in terms of tutorial, one of the things that did annoy me, and it's a trend that I keep seeing in a lot of games coming out at the moment, and it has been there for a long time, is the teaching of how to use the left analog stick.
You really get to know them during the course of the game, and it feels very natural. They open up very gradually, and there are some stoic characters that you don't like to start with, but you get to know them, and slowly you bring them out of their shell, and it's fantastic.
You really get a